On July 2, 1937, somewhere over the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, a silver Lockheed Electra aircraft carrying 2 individuals vanished into thin air. The pilot was Amelia Earhart, already a legend in her own time. Her navigator, Fred Noonan, an experienced seafarer turned aviator. Their disappearance would become one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century, captivating the world for generations to come. Today, we embark on a journey through time to explore the life, achievements, and ultimate fate of Amelia Earhart. We'll unravel the threads of her story, from her early years to her final flight, and examine the lasting impact she has had on aviation, women's rights, and popular culture. But to understand Amelia Earhart, we must first understand the world into which she was born. A world on the cusp of tremendous change. The dawn of the 20th century was an era of rapid technological advancement and social upheaval. The Wright brothers had only recently achieved powered flight, the automobile was revolutionizing transportation, and women were fighting for the right to vote. It was into this world of possibility and change that Amelia Mary Earhart was born. Amelia Earhart's story begins in the heart of America. She was born on July 24, 1897, in Atchison, Kansas, a small town perched on the banks of the Missouri River. Amelia, or Millie as she was known to her family, was the second child of Edwin and Amy Earhart. Her younger sister Grace Muriel was born 2 years later. The Earhart girls were raised to be independent and adventurous, qualities that would shape Amelia's future. From an early age, Amelia displayed a fierce independence and a disregard for traditional gender roles. She preferred climbing trees and hunting rats with a .22 rifle to playing with dolls. Her mother, ahead of her time, made bloomers for young Amelia to wear instead of dresses, allowing her the freedom to run and play. However, Amelia's childhood was not without its challenges. Her father, Edwin, struggled with alcoholism, leading to frequent moves and financial instability for the family. Despite these difficulties, Amelia's mother ensured that her daughters received a good education and encouraged their adventurous spirits. As Amelia came of age, the world was plunged into the chaos of World War I. This global conflict would have a profound impact on her life and career. In 1917, Amelia visited her sister in Toronto, Canada. Moved by the sight of wounded soldiers returning from the war, she decided to stay and train as a nurse's aide. This experience exposed her to the realities of war and, crucially, to aviation. The military pilots she encountered sparked her interest in flying, setting the stage for her future career. After the war, Earhart enrolled at Columbia University, planning to become a doctor. But fate had other plans. In 1920, she attended an air show in Long Beach, California, an event that would change the course of her life. At the air show, Earhart took her first airplane ride with World War I ace Frank Hawks. The experience was transformative. Earhart later recalled, "As soon as we left the ground, I knew I had to fly from that moment on." She was determined to become a pilot. To fund her flying lessons, Earhart worked a series of jobs, from photographer to truck driver. She saved every penny she could, demonstrating the determination that would become her hallmark. In January 1921, Earhart began taking flying lessons with pioneering female aviator Anita Netter-Snook. Earhart proved to be a natural pilot, absorbing lessons quickly and displaying an innate understanding of aircraft. Later that year, Earhart purchased her first airplane, a second-hand Kinner Airster biplane painted bright yellow. She nicknamed it the Canary and used it to set her first aviation record. On October 22, 1922, Earhart flew the Airster to an altitude of 14,000 feet, setting a world record for female pilots. It was the first of many records she would break in her aviation career. In 1923, Earhart received her pilot's license from the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale. She was only the 16th woman in the world to receive this certification. But for Amelia, this was just the beginning. The world of aviation was rapidly advancing. In 1927, Charles Lindbergh made his historic solo flight across the Atlantic, capturing the world's imagination. This feat would inspire Earhart to push her own boundaries even further. In 1928, Earhart received a life-changing phone call. Publisher George Palmer Putnam asked if she would like to be the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean. There was a catch, however: she would be a passenger, not the pilot. Despite her reservations about not being at the controls, Earhart accepted the offer. On June 17, 1928, she joined pilot Wilma Stoltz and co-pilot mechanic Louis Gordon on the flight of the Friendship, a Fokker F.VII aircraft. The flight departed from Trepassey Harbour, Newfoundland, and landed at Bury Port in Wales some 20 hours and 40 minutes later. Although she didn't pilot the aircraft, Earhart became an instant celebrity. She was dubbed Lady Lindy by the press, a nod to Charles Lindbergh. Earhart's fame skyrocketed after the Friendship flight. She embarked on lecture tours, wrote a book about her experience titled 20 HIs, 40 Men, and endorsed various products from luggage to cigarettes despite being a non-smoker. During this time, Earhart grew closer to George Putnam, who managed her public appearances and helped shape her public image. Their professional relationship would eventually blossom into a romance. But Earhart was not content with her role as a passenger. She was determined to prove herself as a pilot in her own right. She set her sights on a solo transatlantic flight, a feat only Charles Lindbergh had accomplished at that point. On May 20, 1932, exactly 5 years after Lindbergh's historic flight, Earhart took off from Harbour Grace, Newfoundland, in her red Lockheed Vega. Her destination, Paris, France. The flight was fraught with challenges. Earhart battled strong winds, icy conditions, and mechanical issues. She later wrote, "The last to leave me was the moon. For an hour or so there were stars, and then the grey ocean dawn." After 14 hours and 56 minutes in the air, Earhart landed in a pasture at Culmore, in Northern Ireland. She hadn't made it to Paris, but she had successfully crossed the Atlantic solo, becoming the first woman and only the second person to do so. Earhart's achievement was celebrated worldwide. She received the Distinguished Flying Cross from the U.S. Congress, the Cross of Knight of the Legion of Honor from the French government, and the Gold Medal of the National Geographic Society from President Herbert Hoover. In the years that followed, Earhart continued to break records and push the boundaries of aviation. She became the first person to fly solo across the Pacific from Honolulu to Oakland, California, in 1935. She also set speed records and altitude records, continually proving her skill as an aviator. But Earhart's impact went beyond her individual achievements. She was a vocal advocate for women in aviation and worked tirelessly to open doors for other female pilots. In 1929, she helped found the 99s, an organization for women pilots that continues to this day. Earhart was also a prolific writer and savvy businesswoman. She wrote best-selling books about her experiences, designed a line of women's fashion, and served as an editor for Cosmopolitan magazine. She used her fame to advocate for causes she believed in, particularly women's rights and the advancement of aviation. In 1931, Earhart married George Putnam, but their union was far from traditional. In an era when women were expected to give up their careers upon marriage, Earhart insisted on maintaining her independence and her maiden name. She referred to their marriage as a partnership with dual control. In 1935, Earhart accepted a position as a visiting faculty member at Purdue University, serving as a career counselor and advisor to the Department of Aeronautics. It was during this time that she began to contemplate her most ambitious flight, yet a journey around the world. The idea of circumnavigating the globe had long fascinated aviators. Wiley Post had accomplished the feat in 1933, and others had followed. But no woman had yet attempted the flight. For Earhart, it would be the ultimate challenge and the crowning achievement of her career. For this ambitious journey, Earhart selected a Lockheed Electra 10E, a twin-engine aircraft known for its range and reliability. The plane was specially modified for long-distance flight, with extra fuel tanks installed to extend its range. These modifications increased the plane's fuel capacity to 1,150 gallons, allowing for longer segments between refueling stops. To assist her on this global journey, Earhart enlisted the help of Fred Noonan, an experienced navigator who had worked for Pan American Airways. Noonan was known for his skill in celestial navigation, a crucial ability for the long over-water portions of the flight. The initial plan was to fly eastward around the world, starting and ending in Oakland, California. The journey would cover approximately 29,000 miles, following an equatorial route. On March 17, 1937, Earhart and her crew took off from Oakland on the first leg of their round-the-world attempt. They flew to Honolulu, Hawaii, without incident. However, disaster struck during the takeoff of the second leg to Howland Island. As the heavily loaded Electra barreled down the runway, it suddenly ground looped, a term for a sudden swerve. The landing gear collapsed, and the plane skidded on its belly, causing significant damage to the right wing and engine. While no one was injured, the plane required extensive repairs. The Electra had to be shipped back to California for repairs, a setback that was both costly and time-consuming. However, Earhart was undeterred. She used the time to further refine her flight plan and make additional preparations. When the Electra was repaired, Earhart decided to reverse the direction of her flight, heading east instead of west. This change was partly due to shifting weather patterns and partly to simplify the navigational challenges. On June 1, 1937, Earhart and Noonan departed from Miami, Florida, beginning their second attempt at the round-the-world flight. Their revised route took them through South America, across the Atlantic to Africa, then eastward through India and Southeast Asia. The pair made stops in South America, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. At each stop, they were greeted by crowds of admirers and local officials. The flight was going well, despite some challenges with weather and mechanical issues. By June 29th, when they arrived in Lae, New Guinea, Earhart and Noonan had completed about 22,000 miles of their journey. They had overcome various challenges, including rough weather, mechanical issues, and navigational difficulties. But the most challenging leg of their journey lay ahead, the 2,556-mile flight from Lae to Howland Island, a tiny speck of land in the Pacific Ocean. The flight from Lae to Howland Island was the most dangerous part of the entire journey. It would require flying over vast stretches of open ocean with no landmarks for navigation. Howland Island itself was a tiny coral atoll, only 1.5 miles long and half a mile. Finding it would be like locating a needle in a haystack. In Lae, Earhart and Noonan made their final preparations. They carefully went over their navigational charts, checked and rechecked their equipment, and ensured the Electra was in top condition. To assist with the challenging flight, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca was stationed off Howland Island. The ship would provide radio support and act as a floating lighthouse, helping to guide Earhart to her destination. On July 2, 1937, at hours Greenwich Mean Time 10 a.m. local time, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan took off from Lae. They were heavily loaded with fuel, carrying 1,100 gallons, which would allow for 20 to 21 hours of flying time. Their estimated time of arrival at Howland Island was 18:30 GMT on July 2nd. As the Electra disappeared into the horizon, no one could have predicted that this would be the last time Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan would be seen. The most challenging and ultimately tragic part of their journey was about to unfold. Throughout the early stages of the flight, Earhart made several radio transmissions that were picked up by the Itasca and other stations. At 2:45 GMT, she reported being on course for Howland Island. At 6:14 GMT, she estimated their position as 200 miles from Lae. As dawn broke on July 2nd, Earhart and Noonan should have been nearing Howland Island, but something was wrong. The Itasca could hear Earhart's transmissions, but she apparently could not hear their responses. At 19:12 GMT, Earhart radioed, "We must be on you, but cannot see you, but gas is running low. Have been unable to reach you by radio. We are flying at 1,000 feet." The crew of the Itasca grew increasingly concerned. At 19:30 GMT, another transmission came through, "We are circling but cannot hear you. Go ahead on 7,500 kgs now, or on schedule time on half hour." The last verified transmission from Earhart came at 20:14 GMT. "We are on the line 157,337. We will repeat this message. We will repeat this on 6,210 kilocycles. Wait." And then, silence. Hours passed, and the Electra never arrived at Howland Island. As fuel estimates dwindled to zero, the awful truth began to sink in. Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan were lost. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart triggered one of the largest and most expensive search operations in history. President Franklin D. Roosevelt authorized a massive search effort, mobilizing the full resources of the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard. Over the next 2 weeks, a flotilla of ships and squadrons of aircraft scoured an area of 250,000 square miles of ocean. The aircraft carrier USS Lexington, the battleship Colorado, and even a Japanese oceanographic survey vessel joined in the search. Despite the unprecedented scale of the search involving over 3,000 men, 60 aircraft, and 9 ships, not a single trace of Earhart, Noonan, or their aircraft was found. No oil slick, no debris, nothing. As days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. On July 18, 1937, after 16 days of intensive searching and at a cost of over $4 million equivalent to about $75 million today, the official search was called off. The final report concluded it is the belief of this command that the unfortunate flyers were forced down at sea in the vicinity of Howland Island and perished. But not everyone was willing to give up. Earhart's husband, George Putnam, refused to accept that his wife was gone. He organized private search efforts that continued for several months, but these too failed to find any trace of the lost aviators. In the absence of concrete evidence, theories began to proliferate about what might have happened to Earhart and Noonan. These ranged from the plausible to the outlandish, and over the decades, they have been debated, investigated, and in some cases, thoroughly debunked. The most straightforward explanation, and the one favored by most aviation historians, is the crash and sink theory. This posits that Earhart and Noonan, unable to locate Howland Island, ran out of fuel and crashed into the vast Pacific Ocean. Expert interview aviation historian, given the challenges of navigating to a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific, and the limited fuel they had remaining, it's entirely plausible that they simply couldn't find Howland and went down at sea. Proponents of this theory point out that the ocean in this area is up to 18,000 feet deep. If the Electra sank in such depths, it would be extremely difficult to locate, even with modern technology. Another prominent theory is the Gardner Island hypothesis, championed by the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, or TIAR. This theory suggests that Earhart and Noonan landed on Gardner Island, now known as Nikumaroro, about 350 nautical miles southeast of Howland Island. Expert interviewed TIAR researcher we believe that Earhart and Noonan may have landed on the reef of Gardner Island when they couldn't find Howland. They may have survived for a time as castaways before ultimately perishing on the island. TIAR has conducted numerous expeditions to Nikumaroro, finding tantalizing clues such as pieces of aircraft debris in a jar that may have contained freckle cream. However, none of these findings have been conclusively linked to Earhart. A more controversial theory suggests that Earhart and Noonan were captured by Japanese forces. This theory posits that they veered off course and landed in the Marshall Islands, then under Japanese control. Expert interview Earhart researcher some eyewitness accounts from Marshall Islanders claim to have seen a white woman and man who matched Earhart and Noonan's descriptions. However, these accounts emerged decades after the event, raising questions about their reliability. Proponents of this theory have presented photographs purportedly showing Earhart and Noonan in Japanese custody. However, these have been largely debunked, with evidence showing the photos were taken before Earhart's final flight. Yet another theory suggests that Earhart's flight was actually a cover for a secret U.S. government mission to gather intelligence on Japanese activities in the Pacific. Expert interview historian, while it's an intriguing idea, there's no credible evidence to support this theory. All available documentation suggests that Earhart's flight was exactly what it appeared to be, an attempt to fly around the world. A lesser-known theory proposes that Earhart and Noonan crashed on the island of New Britain, near Papua New Guinea. This is based on reports of aircraft raft wreckage found there during World War II. Expert interview archaeologist, while some aircraft debris has been found on New Britain, nothing has been conclusively linked to Earhart's Electra. Moreover, this location is inconsistent with Earhart's last known position and direction. Another hypothesis, known as the Northern Expedition theory, suggests that navigation errors led Earhart and Noonan to fly north of Howland Island before running out of fuel and crashing. Expert interview aviation expert. This theory is based on detailed analysis of fuel consumption and weather patterns. It's consistent with some interpretations of Earhart's final radio messages, but like the other theories, it lacks definitive physical evidence. Over the decades, numerous expeditions have been launched to find evidence of Earhart's fate. These have ranged from well-funded scientific expeditions to smaller, privately organized searches. In 2002, the deep-sea exploration company Nauticos conducted several expeditions to search for Earhart's plane in the deep waters near Howland Island. Using advanced sonar technology, they mapped over 2,000 square miles of ocean floor, but found no trace of the Electra. Taya has conducted 13 expeditions to Nikumaroro between 1989 and 2019. They've used everything from traditional archaeological techniques to underwater remote-operated vehicles in their search for evidence. In 2019, famed oceanographer Robert Ballard, known for discovering the wreck of the Titanic, led a high-profile expedition to Nikumaroro. Despite using state-of-the-art technology, including autonomous surface vehicles and underwater drones, Ballard's team found no definitive evidence of Earhart or her plane. While these expeditions haven't solved the mystery, they've uncovered intriguing clues and advanced our understanding of Earhart's final flight. Let's examine some of the key pieces of evidence. In the days following Earhart's disappearance, numerous radio signals were received that some believed originated from her aircraft. Over 100 reports of signals were logged by various stations and listeners. Expert interview radio expert. While many of these signals were later determined to be hoaxes or misidentifications, some researchers argue that their strength and timing suggest Earhart may have landed on a reef or island, allowing her to transmit for several days after her disappearance. In 1991, a piece of aluminum aircraft debris was found on Nikumaroro. Taya researchers argue that this piece matches repairs made to Earhart's Electra during her stop in Miami at the beginning of her final flight. Expert interview Taya researcher. The dimensions and characteristics of this piece are consistent with a patch that was applied to Earhart's Electra in Miami. We believe this is strong evidence supporting the Gardner Island hypothesis. In 1940, a partial skeleton was discovered on Nikumaroro. While the bones themselves were subsequently lost, the original measurements were rediscovered in 1998. Expert interview forensic anthropologist. Modern reanalysis of these bone measurements suggests they could be consistent with Earhart's build. However, without the original bones, it's impossible to say with certainty. Among the more unusual pieces of evidence is a jar found on Nikumaroro that may have contained freckle cream. Earhart was known to dislike her freckles and may have used such a product. Expert interview archaeologist. While it's an intriguing find, we can't say definitively that this jar belonged to Earhart. It could have come from other visitors to the island or been washed up on the shore. Despite advances in technology, the vast search area and the potential for aircraft disintegration make identification of wreckage extremely challenging. Sonar anomalies detected in deep water near Howland Island have excited researchers, but none have been conclusively linked to Earhart's Electra. While the mystery of Amelia Earhart's disappearance continues to captivate us, it's important to remember that her legacy extends far beyond her final flight. Earhart's impact on aviation, women's rights, and popular culture has been profound and lasting. In the realm of aviation, Earhart's disappearance led to significant improvements in safety and communication protocols. The mystery highlighted the need for better navigation systems and more robust emergency procedures for transoceanic flights. Expert interview aviation safety expert. The search for Earhart demonstrated the limitations of existing technologies and procedures. It spurred the development of improved radio communication systems and more comprehensive flight planning protocols. Earhart's influence on women in aviation cannot be overstated. She broke numerous records and proved that women were capable of extraordinary achievements in what was then a male-dominated field. Expert interview female pilot Amelia Earhart was a trailblazer. She opened doors for generations of women in aviation. Her legacy continues to inspire female pilots today. The 99s, an international organization of women pilots that Earhart helped found, continues to this day. It promotes advancement of aviation through education, scholarships, and mutual support. In popular culture, Earhart's story has inspired countless books, movies, and TV shows. Her image has appeared on postage stamps and currency. She's been referenced in everything from Star Trek episodes to popular music. Expert interview cultural historian Amelia Earhart has become more than just a historical figure. She's an American icon, symbolizing courage, adventure, and breaking barriers. Her disappearance has only added to her mystique. Earhart was also a pioneer in personal branding. She developed a line of women's fashion, designed to be both stylish and practical for the modern, active woman. Her celebrity endorsements and product lines were ahead of their time. As an author, Earhart wrote best-selling books about her experiences, including 20 HRS, 40 Min, and the fun of it. These works not only chronicled her adventures, but also advocated for women's rights and the advancement of aviation. Perhaps most importantly, Earhart continues to inspire as a symbol of female empowerment. Her famous quote, "Women must try to do things as men have tried. When they fail, Their failure must be but a challenge to others still resonates today. Expert interview. Women's rights activist Amelia Earhart challenged societal norms and proved that women could excel in any field. Her legacy continues to inspire women to break barriers and pursue their dreams, regardless of societal expectations. The ongoing search for Earhart has also driven innovations in deep-sea exploration technology and techniques. It has contributed to advancements in sonar, underwater imaging, and remote sensing technologies. Expert interview. Oceanographer. The challenge of finding a small aircraft in such a vast and deep ocean has pushed the boundaries of what's possible in deep-sea exploration. Technologies developed for the Earhart search have applications in many other fields of ocean research. Additionally, the search for Earhart has contributed to our understanding of Pacific Island history and ecology. Expeditions to remote islands like Niku have provided valuable data on these little-studied ecosystems. As technology continues to advance, many hope that the mystery of Amelia Earhart's disappearance may finally be solved. New techniques in satellite imagery analysis, advanced underwater robotics, and artificial intelligence are being applied to the search. Expert interview. Search technology expert. We're constantly developing new tools and techniques that could help solve this mystery. From AI analysis of historical data to advanced underwater drones, the technology keeps improving. It's not a question of if we'll find Earhart's plane, but when. Yet regardless of whether the mystery is ever solved, Amelia Earhart's place in history is secure. She will continue to be remembered not just for the mystery of her disappearance, but for her groundbreaking achievements, her courage, and her enduring inspiration to people around the world. In the end, perhaps the most fitting tribute to Amelia Earhart is not just the ongoing search for answers about her fate, but the countless individuals she has inspired to pursue their own dreams, push their own boundaries, and make their own mark on the world. Expert interview. Historian. Amelia Earhart's true legacy isn't in the mystery of her disappearance, but in the inspiration she provides. She showed us that the sky is not the limit, but only the beginning. As Amelia Earhart herself once said, "The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity." The fears are paper tigers. You can do anything you decide to do. You can act to change and control your life and the procedure. The process is its own reward. The mystery of Amelia Earhart may remain unsolved, but her legacy of courage, determination, and breaking barriers continues to inspire new generations to reach for the skies. In her life, her achievements, and even in her disappearance, Amelia Earhart left an indelible mark on history, forever changing the world of aviation and the role of women in society. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life, disappearance, and enduring legacy of Amelia Earhart. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. And remember, in the words of Amelia Earhart, adventure is worthwhile in itself.